What if everything you rely on today suddenly disappeared? Your status, your money, your relationships. Would you still know who you are? Most people wouldn't. And that's the quiet fear no one talks about. The fear that if the world shifts, we collapse with it. Because our confidence is tied to things that can be taken. Our peace is tied to people who can leave. Our identity is tied to roles that can change overnight. You feel stable until something shakes you. A rejection, a betrayal, a failure, a loss. And suddenly your chest tightens, your thoughts spiral, your certainty cracks. That's not weakness, that's dependency. Centuries ago, a man who lived by the sword understood this better than anyone. Miyamoto Musashi fought over 60 life-or-death duels and was never defeated. But his greatest battle was not against opponents. It was against attachment, ego, and fear. Near the end of his life, he wrote a short text called Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. It wasn't about isolation. It was about inner independence. Musashi saw what most people avoid seeing. The world is unstable. People change. Wealth disappears. The body ages. Opinions shift. If your peace depends on these things staying constant, you will always live on edge. Modern psychology calls this external validation. When your worth depends on what you have or how you are seen, your nervous system stays in survival mode. You become fragile without realizing it. One negative comment ruins your day. One setback makes you question your value. One mistake feels like identity collapse. Musashi refused to live that way. He trained himself to depend on nothing outside his own discipline, not praise. Not comfort, not security. He understood a simple law: if you need something to feel whole, that thing owns you. Think about that. What controls your mood right now? Is it someone's approval? A message you're waiting for? A number in your bank account? If it disappears, does your confidence disappear with it? Being unshakable is not about being emotionless. It is about building a center that does not move when circumstances do. Resilience research today confirms this. The strongest minds focus on what they can control: effort, attitude, preparation. They accept uncertainty instead of fighting it. They don't demand the world be stable, they become stable. And that is your invitation. Instead of asking, how do I make life easier? Ask, how do I make myself stronger? Storms will come, that is guaranteed. Loss is guaranteed. Change is guaranteed. But if your foundation is internal, you do not break when the wind rises. You bend, you adapt, you continue. This philosophy offers something rare in today's chaotic world: emotional freedom. Imagine waking up knowing that no opinion, no setback, no sudden shift can steal your center. Imagine moving through criticism without shrinking, through uncertainty without panic, through loss without losing yourself. That is power, not loud power, not flashy power, quiet power, the kind that stands steady when everything else shakes. And if you stay with this path, if you embrace this mindset fully, you will build something most people never experience: a mind that cannot be owned by fear. That is what Dokkodo promises. And that is what you are capable of becoming. Mastering yourself is powerful, but there is something even more difficult than controlling impulse. It is accepting reality without complaint. This is where most people break. You can train hard, you can build discipline, but when life hits you unfairly, unexpectedly, painfully, what do you do then? Do you adapt or do you argue with reality? In Dokkodo, Miyamoto Musashi wrote a rule that cuts straight to the ego: accept everything just the way it is. No resentment, no excuses, no self-pity. That sounds simple. It is not, because the human mind hates losing control. When something goes wrong, the first instinct is blame. Blame the situation, blame other people, blame timing, blame luck. Blame feels relieving for a moment. It protects the ego. It says, this is not my fault. But it also steals your power. Psychologists call it locus of control. When you believe your life is controlled by outside forces, you become passive. You wait. You complain. You feel stuck. Stress increases because you feel helpless. But when you believe your response is always yours, something changes. Even if the event is unfair, even if the loss hurts, even if the timing is terrible, your reaction becomes your responsibility. And responsibility is power. Acceptance does not mean you approve of what happened. It means you stop wasting energy wishing it hadn't. There are always two pains: the pain of the event and the pain of resisting the event. Lose the resistance and half the suffering disappears. You lose a job, you can spend months replaying the injustice, or you can say, this is reality. Now what can I control? You face rejection, you can spiral into doubt, or you can ask, what can I improve? You encounter failure, you can label yourself unlucky. Or you can treat it as information. This is radical ownership. It is not comfortable, it is not soft, it demands maturity, but it builds an unshakable identity. Because when you stop arguing with reality, you see clearly, and clarity allows movement. Complaining traps you in emotion. Acceptance moves you into action. The world does not owe you fairness. It does not promise smooth paths. It does not adjust to your expectations. But you can adjust to it, and adaptability is strength. When something painful happens, most people freeze or explode. The unshakable mind absorbs, it studies, it adjusts. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, how can I grow from this? That shift rewires your identity from victim to builder. Every setback becomes training. Every loss becomes feedback. Every obstacle becomes resistance that strengthens you. Imagine living without excuses. If you are behind, you learn. If you are weak, you train. If you are lost, you seek direction. No drama, just progress. This mindset creates emotional stability because your power is no longer tied to events. It is tied to effort. You may not control the storm, but you control how you stand in it. No blame, no panic, no surrender, just steady forward movement. And that steadiness, that quiet refusal to collapse, is where true resilience is born. Steady forward movement changes you. But there is one final fear that quietly controls almost every decision you make. The fear of losing tomorrow, the fear of death. It hides behind hesitation, behind procrastination, behind the need to be liked. You tell yourself you are waiting for the right time, the perfect conditions, more confidence, more security. But what you are really waiting for is certainty that you will not lose. In Dokkodo, Miyamoto Musashi wrote with brutal clarity about death. He faced it constantly. Not as an abstract idea, but as a daily possibility. And instead of becoming fearful, he became focused. When you accept that life is limited, something powerful happens. Petty worries shrink. Ego battles lose meaning. Approval becomes irrelevant. You stop negotiating with fear because you realize time is the only thing you truly own, and even that is temporary. Modern psychology calls this mortality awareness. When you consciously remember that your days are numbered, your priorities sharpen. You seek meaning over comfort, contribution over validation, courage over safety. Ask yourself honestly, if you knew your time was short, would you still stay silent? Would you still delay your dream? Would you still let fear of judgment control your choices? Most hesitation is not about capability. It is about fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of being seen trying and not succeeding. But when you truly understand that one day you will be gone, embarrassment loses its power. Failure becomes small. Criticism becomes noise. You realize you have nothing to lose by being brave. This is not dark thinking. It is liberating thinking. When you stop fearing death, you stop fearing life. You speak honestly, you love fully, you build boldly, you forgive quickly, you act now. You stop playing small to stay safe. Material things lose their grip. You cannot carry status into the grave. You cannot protect reputation forever. What remains is character, discipline, integrity. The way you showed up when it mattered, that is what lasts. When you live each day aware of its fragility, urgency enters your actions, not panic, purpose. You stop scrolling endlessly. You start building. You stop complaining about time. You start using it. You stop postponing growth. You step into it. Courage becomes simpler when you realize delay is the real risk. There is no perfect moment coming, no flawless alignment of conditions. There is only now. And now is powerful because it is real. Being unshakable is not about being invincible. It is about being aligned with truth. The truth that change is constant, that comfort is temporary, that life is short. When you accept these truths deeply, fear weakens. You wake up ready to move. Ready to work, ready to speak, ready to risk. You stop asking, what if I fail? You start asking, what if I never try? And that question ignites something inside you, a quiet fire. A steady strength. A decision to walk your path without clinging, without blaming, without fearing the end. Because when you are ready to lose everything, you finally become impossible to control. And that is freedom. Unshakable. Freedom like that is not loud. It does not need applause. It does not need recognition. It is quiet, controlled, and deeply rooted. But here is the truth most people avoid. Walking this path will feel lonely. Not because you will be alone in the world, but because you will no longer think like the world. Dokkodo means the way of walking alone. Miyamoto Musashi chose those words carefully. Walking alone does not mean rejecting people. It means rejecting dependency. It means your direction is guided by principle, not popularity. When you stop chasing approval, some people will not understand you. When you stop complaining, others will call you cold. When you stop indulging in comfort, they may call you extreme. But what they are really reacting to is your discipline. Most people bond over distraction, over gossip, over shared excuses. When you choose growth, you step out of that circle. You choose standards over validation. You choose silence over noise. You choose focus over constant stimulation. That can feel isolating at first. Your ego will whisper, fit in, relax, be normal. But deep inside, you know normal is fragile. Normal is reactive. Normal is distracted. Normal is controlled by trends, by fear, by comparison. You are not building normal. You are building unshakable. Psychology shows that identity shapes behavior. When you define yourself as disciplined, resilient, independent, your actions begin to align automatically. But identity requires repetition, daily proof. Small wins that reinforce who you are becoming. Every morning you wake up and choose effort over excuses, you cast a vote for that identity. Every time you stay calm in conflict, you reinforce emotional control. Every time you act despite fear, you strengthen courage.